Trust is like glass. Once shattered, it can never be whole again. Sheikh Omar Allard spoke in rapid Arabic, his voice cutting through the silence of the 35th floor conference room. He pushed his chair back. Rebecca Lane's translator had vanished. Her $200 million deal was dying. Omar headed for the door. Then a small voice answered him in flawless, classical Arabic. "But sir, broken things can become art, if we're brave enough." Everyone froze. Standing in the doorway was an 8-year-old girl in a purple sweater. Omar stopped mid-stride. 30 blocks away in Queens, David Alvarez's alarm clock went off at 5 a.m. He'd been awake for an hour already, staring at the ceiling of his studio apartment. The rent was due in 3 days. His daughter Sophia slept on the pull-out couch, curled around a library book about ancient civilizations. David worked as a custodian at Meridian Tower, the same glass building where Rebecca fought daily to prove she deserved to be CEO at 30. 7 years ago, David had been 2 years into a college degree in education. Then his wife Maria got sick. Cancer. Aggressive. He dropped out to care for her, picking up night shifts so he could be home during her treatments. After she died, Sophia was 4 years old. David took the custodian job because it had insurance and let him work while she slept. Every paycheck, he set aside $20 for books. The apartment was tiny but packed with them. Dictionaries in 6 languages, encyclopedias, textbooks, comic books, poetry collections. On the kitchen table, Sophia's homework spread across faded placemats. Arabic verb conjugations next to fractions. David made coffee and watched his daughter sleep. She was small for 8, skinny, with his dark hair and Maria's sharp eyes. She'd been reading since she was 4. By 5, she was reading chapter books. By 6, encyclopedias. At 7, she found a used Arabic grammar textbook at the library book exchange. Something about the script fascinated her. The way letters connected and flowed. She checked out children's books in Arabic. Then poetry. The library had audio recordings. Sophia listened on repeat, her mouth forming sounds she'd never heard before. Within 6 months, she was reading classical Arabic better than most graduate students. She didn't know this. She just loved how the words sounded. David couldn't help her with Arabic. He barely spoke Spanish anymore. But every night, he sat with her at that kitchen table while she worked through lessons, sounding out words, asking questions he couldn't answer. "How do you know if you're saying it right?" she'd asked once. "You don't," he'd said. "You just keep trying." Sophia kept trying. Meanwhile, Rebecca Lane stood in her corner office overlooking Central Park, reviewing the contract for the 100th time. Sheikh Omar Allard represented a consortium willing to inject $200 million into Meridian's infrastructure fund. She'd negotiated for 6 months. Today was supposed to be ceremonial. Sign the papers, shake hands, announce the deal. Except her translator, the one who'd handled every conversation with Omar, called at 7 a.m. from an emergency room. Food poisoning. Rebecca found a replacement by noon. A grad student from Columbia. He confirmed twice, then stopped answering his phone 15 minutes before Omar arrived. Rebecca had built her career on preparation. She had contingency plans for her contingency plans. But she couldn't speak Arabic. And Omar? She'd learned over 6 months of negotiations, valued respect above everything. He'd walked away from bigger deals over smaller slights. This wasn't just about the translator. Omar had been insulted from the moment he entered the building. The receptionist mispronounced his name. Security checked his ID twice. In the elevator, a junior analyst made a crack about oil money, not realizing Omar spoke perfect English and had built his fortune in tech and renewables. These weren't accidents. They were symptoms of the casual disrespect Omar encountered constantly in Western business. The missing translator was the final straw. Rebecca watched him arrive via security camera. Dignified, controlled, furious. He sat through her apology with a face like stone. Then he stood and spoke in Arabic, his words formal and sharp. Rebecca understood nothing except his tone. Omar walked toward the door. The deal was dead. Her position as CEO was dead with it. Outside in the hallway, Sophia sat with her library book, waiting for her father to finish cleaning the executive bathroom. She'd done her homework in 20 minutes. Now she was reading about Greek mythology. Then she heard it, Arabic. Someone was speaking Arabic. Not modern Arabic from news broadcasts, but classical Arabic like in her audio recordings. The man sounded sad. Sophia looked up. The conference room door was open. She could see a tall man in an expensive suit heading for the exit. A woman in a blue dress looked panicked. Sophia didn't think about rules or permission. She thought, "Someone needs help." She walked into the room. The man stopped. "But sir," Sophia said in classical Arabic, her voice clear and gentle, "my mother told me that broken things can become art if we're brave enough to put them back together differently." Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Omar turned slowly. He stared at this child, this 8-year-old in a purple sweater and patched jeans who'd just quoted Al-Ghazali in a dialect he hadn't heard spoken properly since his grandmother died. He knelt to her level. "Where did you learn to speak like that?" Sophia smiled. "From books, sir. And from my heart." The door burst open. David ran in, still holding a spray bottle of cleaning solution. His face went white. "Sophia, I'm so sorry." "She's not supposed to." Omar held up one hand. His eyes never left Sophia's face. "Let her speak." Rebecca found her voice. "Wait, you understood what she said?" Omar smiled for the first time since entering the building. She quoted an 11th century philosopher. In classical Arabic, using the subjunctive mood correctly. He looked at David. "Who taught her?" David's hands shook. He was going to be fired. "She taught herself, sir. From library books." Omar studied David, the custodian's uniform, the calloused hands, the terror in his eyes. Then he looked back at Sophia. "What is your name, child?" "Sophia Alvarez." "I'm 8 3/4. "And you speak more Arabic?" "I can read it too. I've been practicing for almost 2 years. I'm not perfect yet." Omar glanced at Rebecca, at David, back to Sophia. Something shifted in his expression. He pulled out the chair at the head of the conference table. "Would you sit with me?" Sophia looked at her father. David, terrified and confused, nodded. Sophia climbed into the chair. Her feet dangled 6 inches above the floor. Omar sat beside her. He opened his briefcase, removed the contract, and spoke in Arabic. "Can you read this paragraph?" Sophia leaned forward, finger tracing the text. She read aloud, translating Arabic to English as she went. The paragraph covered profit-sharing arrangements. When she finished, Omar pointed to another section. "And this?" She read again. "Environmental impact requirements." She stumbled over a technical term, paused, sounded it out, continued. Rebecca sat frozen. This child, the janitor's 8-year-old daughter, was reading a legal document in a language she didn't know existed outside universities. Omar wasn't testing Sophia's Arabic. He was testing her character, how she handled pressure, how she approached unfamiliar concepts, whether she faked understanding. Sophia passed every test. When she didn't know a word, she admitted it. When she was uncertain, she offered 2 translations and explained both. When Omar made a pun in Arabic, she paused, worked it out, laughed, and explained it to Rebecca in English. The ice melted. Rebecca leaned forward, asking questions, letting Sophia translate not just words but cultural context. A simple clause in English carried implications in Arabic that suggested Meridian didn't trust Omar's transparency. A paragraph about reporting used language that, in Arabic business culture, implied Omar was a junior partner, not an equal. These weren't intentional insults. They were oversights from a team that never considered how their words would be received across cultures. Sophia navigated these gaps with instinct. She'd ask Omar what he meant, really meant. Then explain to Rebecca not just the words, but the feelings. He's not saying he doesn't trust you. He's saying he wants to be seen. Rebecca nodded. She'd spent her career fighting to be seen, to be valued for her ideas rather than dismissed for her age or gender. I understand. 2 hours passed. The sun set, painting the glass walls gold. David stood by the door the entire time, afraid to move, watching his daughter do something impossible. He'd known she was smart. He hadn't known she was this smart. Finally, Omar sat back and switched to English. Miss Lane, I came here prepared to leave. Your company showed me, in a dozen small ways, that you did not value my culture or my partnership. Rebecca started to apologize. Omar continued. But this child showed me something different. Respect doesn't require wealth or status. It requires curiosity and effort. He looked at David. Your daughter spent 2 years teaching herself Arabic because she found it beautiful. Not for profit. For love. He turned to Rebecca. That is the partnership I seek. He picked up his pen and clicked it open. I will sign this contract, not because of your reputation or returns. He pointed at Sophia, who was humming softly, swinging her legs. Because of her. Rebecca insisted on dinner. Omar agreed immediately. David tried to refuse Sophia's bedtime wrong clothes, but Rebecca wouldn't hear it. You're coming. Both of you. They went to Oriole. David had walked past it 100 times, never imagining he'd go inside. The host looked at David's uniform with contempt until Omar said something in Arabic that made the man's face go pale. Best table in the house. David had never felt so out of place. The menu had no prices. He picked up the wrong fork and felt his face burn. But Sophia made it easy. She asked questions about everything. Why? 3 spoons. What's this leaf? Can I try that bread? Her joy was contagious. By the second course, David was laughing at Omar's story about thinking hot dogs were made from actual dogs when he first came to America. Sophia asked about Dubai, the Burj Khalifa, indoor skiing in the desert. Omar answered patiently, occasionally slipping into Arabic. Sophia always understood. Rebecca watched David. Calloused hands, frayed collar, but the way he cut his daughter's food without thinking, dabbed her mouth with his napkin, reminded her to chew. There was tenderness that made Rebecca's chest ache. She'd grown up with nannies and boarding schools. Her parents loved their careers more than her. They taught her success meant sacrifice. Softness was weakness. Winning was everything. Watching David and Sophia, Rebecca realized she'd never seen real winning. Not a corner office or 7 figures. This. A father who gave up his dreams so his daughter could chase hers. A child who felt safe being curious. Rebecca had spent 15 years building a career. David had spent 8 years building a human being. She knew which mattered more. Over dessert, Sophia asked about Arabic poetry. Omar recited Rumi, his voice musical. Sophia closed her eyes, asked him to repeat it so she could memorize the rhythm. He did. She repeated it perfectly. Language is music for the soul, Omar said softly. Your daughter understands this. David's eyes were wet. Her mother used to say the same thing. The table went quiet. My wife was a teacher, David said, the words coming before he could stop them. 3rd grade. She made every kid love reading. He smiled. She said words were magic spells. Right order. You could make someone feel anything. Omar leaned forward. Rebecca set down her fork. Sophia took her father's hand. When she got sick cancer, she was more worried about Sophia than herself. Sophia was 4. Maria was terrified she wouldn't remember her. Wouldn't know how much she was loved. His voice cracked. So for 6 months while she was dying, Maria recorded herself. Hundreds of hours. Reading books. Singing lullabies. Teaching lessons. Telling stories. He looked at Sophia. Every night, Sophia listens to her mother's voice. That's how she learned to love learning. Sophia spoke quietly. Mama said people die, but ideas live forever. If I kept reading, I'd carry her everywhere. Rebecca pressed her napkin to her eyes. She'd cried twice in 10 years. Both times alone. She was crying now. Omar's face went very still. I lost my daughter 10 years ago. Amira. She was 12. She drowned in Greece. Strong current. He paused, gathering himself. For years, I couldn't forgive myself. I was her father. I should have protected her. He looked at Sophia. When I see your daughter, I see Amira. The curiosity, the joy, the way she approaches the world like it's full of gifts. His voice dropped. You've given her something precious, not just books or knowledge. You've given her freedom to be fully herself. That's the greatest gift a parent can offer. David couldn't speak. He nodded, throat too tight. Rebecca, watching this, felt something fundamental shift. She'd spent 3 years fighting to prove she deserved CEO. She'd won market share, increased profits, expanded sectors. The board respected her. Competitors feared her. But sitting here, listening to a janitor and a billionaire bond over children they'd loved and lost and raised, Rebecca realized she'd been measuring success wrong. What did her achievements matter if she'd never connected like these two men were connecting now? What was power worth if it left you eating alone in expensive restaurants, surrounded by people who wanted your influence but not your company? For the first time in her career, Rebecca felt poor. The story broke 3 days later. Janitor's daughter saves Fortune 500 deal. By Thursday, it had gone viral. Security footage showed Sophia walking into the conference room. Omar kneeling. The three of them at the table. No audio, but the images told the story. By Friday, the narrative twisted. Conservative outlets praised merit and hard work. Progressive outlets called it a distraction from systemic inequality. Then came conspiracy theories. A blogger with 200,000 followers posted the Arabic child. Manufactured miracle? Or calculated con? The post claimed David had planted Sophia deliberately, coached her for months. That he and Omar were secretly connected through military networks. The evidence was absurd, but it spread like wildfire. By Monday, David was on administrative leave, pending investigation. Sophia's school called. Parents complained. Some said they didn't want their children near that girl who talks to terrorists. The principal suggested Sophia stay home until things settled. Sophia heard the whispers. Saw the stares. A boy at recess asked loudly if her dad was a spy. That night, she asked David, "Did I do something wrong when I spoke Arabic?" David pulled her into his lap. "No, baby. You did something brave and beautiful and right." Then why are people mad? Because some people get scared when they see something they don't understand. Instead of asking questions, they make up stories. Bad stories. Sometimes. Sophia was quiet. Do we have to move again? David's heart broke. They'd moved 4 times in 7 years. Cheaper rent, better schools, safer neighborhoods. Each move was hard. Each time Sophia lost friends, routines, stability. No, David said firmly. We're not moving. We're not running. We didn't do anything wrong. But that night, after Sophia slept, David sat at the kitchen table and wondered if he'd just lied. Rebecca found out Tuesday morning when her assistant brought newspaper clippings and screenshots. She read them all. Fury building. By noon, she'd identified the source of the leaked footage. A contractor in IT passed over for promotion who blamed her. She fired him and issued a company-wide memo threatening termination for anyone discussing confidential security materials. She had lawyers draft cease and desist letters to the blogger and media outlets repeating the conspiracy. It wasn't enough. The damage was done. David's name was in tabloid mud. Sophia was treated like a curiosity or threat. Omar, back in Dubai, was being asked if he'd been scammed. Rebecca spent Tuesday night reviewing every document related to the signing. She wanted to understand how the conspiracy gained traction, where the false details originated. She found it, a single email sent the day after the signing by Marcus Webb, a board member who'd opposed her promotion from the beginning. The email went to 3 journalists and the blogger, carefully worded insinuations. Interesting that our youngest CEO needed a child to close her deal. One wonders about the custodian's background, his military service, his convenient presence. Sheikh Allard appreciates theatrical gestures. Perhaps this was staged. No direct accusations, just seeds. The internet's outrage machine did the rest. Rebecca had her proof. Wednesday, she built her case. Webb's pattern of undermining her. Emails and notes showing sabotage attempts. Thursday morning, emergency board meeting. She presented everything. Marcus has spent 6 months trying to force me out. When a legitimate success threatened that, he manufactured a scandal. Webb defended himself, just asking questions. Concerned about reputation, Rebecca cut him off. You leaked confidential footage to damage an 8-year-old's reputation. If you want to attack me, fine. But this crosses every ethical line we have. The board voted unanimously to censure Webb and request his resignation. He left red-faced and silent. Victory. But Rebecca felt hollow. She'd protected herself. David and Sophia were still targets. The internet didn't care about internal politics. The story had taken on a life of its own. The Metropolitan Museum had planned the Islamic Art and Science exhibition for 3 years. Golden Age artifacts, astronomy manuscripts, geometric tilework, Arabic scholarship's influence on the Renaissance. Opening Gala. First Saturday in October. Omar had been invited months ago as patron and speaker, before he'd heard of Meridian or Rebecca or David. When he returned to New York, he called David. I would like you and Sophia to attend as my guests. David tried to decline. They'd been through enough. The last thing Sophia needed was more attention. Omar insisted. The people who attacked you are counting on your silence. They want you to hide, disappear, prove them right by acting ashamed. Don't give them that satisfaction. He paused. Besides, Sophia should see this exhibition. It's her cultural heritage now, too. David didn't know what to say. We don't have anything to wear to a gala. That is a problem I can solve. 2 days later, a tailor arrived with a suit for David and 3 dresses for Sophia. She picked midnight blue with silver embroidery, like the calligraphy in her books. Saturday evening, a town car picked them up. Actual driver, who held the door and called Sophia Miss. Rebecca met them at the museum entrance. She'd barely slept in days, managing fallout from Webb's resignation, but she'd promised Omar she'd be there. The Great Hall held 300 guests in formal wear, servers with champagne and hors d'oeuvres, a string quartet by the Egyptian temple. Sophia stared at everything. David held her hand and tried not to feel like an imposter. They found Omar near the Islamic galleries. He greeted them warmly, introduced them to curators and scholars, guided them through the exhibition with pride. Sophia stopped at an illuminated Quran manuscript, calligraphy so intricate it looked like lace made of ink. She read the Arabic quietly. An elderly curator nearby overheard and approached. You read classical Arabic? Sophia nodded shyly. The curator smiled. Would you read that passage aloud? My eyesight isn't what it used to be. Sophia read. Voice clear and careful. The curator's smile widened. Beautiful pronunciation. Where did you study? Library books. And recordings. My dad helped me practice. The curator looked at David with new respect. You teach Arabic? No. I just helped her sound out words. She did the learning. More people gathered. Someone asked her to translate an astrolabe inscription. She did. Someone pointed to poetry. She read it, offered rough English translation. Within 15 minutes, Sophia had attracted 20 people, scholars, patrons, staff, captivated by this child, who spoke their language with joy rather than academic detachment. Then the program began. The director gave opening remarks, thanked donors, introduced themes. Then she introduced Omar. Omar spoke about preserving cultural heritage, connections between medieval Islamic scholarship and modern science, the need for cross-cultural understanding. His speech was eloquent and well-received. Then he went off-script. Tonight I want to introduce someone special. He gestured toward Sophia. A few weeks ago, I was prepared to walk away from a deal because I felt disrespected and unseen. But this young woman stopped me by speaking my language. Not just the words. The spirit behind them. Sophia tried to shrink. David put an arm around her. She taught herself Arabic because she found it beautiful. 2 years studying alone, no teacher except curiosity, and her father's encouragement. When she saw someone in distress, she offered help, even though she was just a child in a room full of powerful adults. He paused, finding Sophia's eyes. I've met many educated people. Diplomats, scholars, business leaders who speak a dozen languages. But Sophia understands something they don't. Language isn't about fluency or vocabulary. It's about connection. It's about seeing another person's humanity and choosing to bridge the distance. Silence. Every eye on him. Unfortunately, Sophia and her father have been attacked for what she did. Accused of manipulation by people who can't imagine kindness exists without ulterior motive. Omar's voice hardened. These accusations aren't just wrong. They're obscene. They reveal more about the accusers than the accused. He looked at the cameras. So, I want to be clear. Sofia Alvarez is an extraordinary child raised by an extraordinary man. David Alvarez isn't a janitor who got lucky. He's a father who sacrificed everything, including his education, to ensure his daughter had opportunities to learn. He's a veteran who served his country, a widower who honors his wife's memory by living her values, and a man of integrity who's never asked for anything except the chance to do his job and raise his daughter in peace. Applause started, but Omar held up a hand. I'm not finished. Tonight I'm announcing the Sofia Alvarez Scholarship Fund. Full educational support, elementary through university, for children from low-income families who demonstrate exceptional language aptitude. The applause erupted, deafening. Omar waited, and I have one more request. He looked at Sophia. Would you come up here? Sophia looked at her father, terrified. David whispered. You don't have to. But Sophia stood. She walked through the crowd to the podium, legs shaking, hands clasped. Omar knelt beside her. Will you say something? Anything you want, any language. Sophia looked at 300 faces. She thought about her mother's recordings, the hours at the kitchen table with her father, the library books that opened the world. She spoke in English first. Language isn't just words. It's a bridge between hearts. Arabic. My father cleans buildings so I can have books. My mother in heaven taught me to love learning. Mr. Omar lost his daughter and saw her in me. Spanish. My grandmother taught me family isn't just blood. It's who shows up, who stays, who loves you when you're difficult. English. I learned Arabic because the letters were pretty. I kept learning because the words were beautiful. I spoke it because someone needed to be heard. Her voice grew stronger. My father is the bravest, kindest, smartest person I know. He's not rich. He doesn't have a big job. But he gave me everything. Books, time, love, and the freedom to be curious. Tears streamed down her face. People say mean things about us. But we didn't do anything wrong. We just tried to help. If being kind makes people angry, I don't understand this world at all. Absolute silence. Then, someone in back started clapping. Then, another. Then, everyone. Thunderous applause echoing off glass and stone. People stood. Some cried. Sophia stood at the podium, small and brave and utterly herself, and the world saw her clearly for the first time. The video went viral within hours. By Sunday morning, clips had 20 million views. News outlets that ran stories questioning the family now scrambled to correct. The conspiracy blogger issued public apology. Marcus Webb resigned from every board. By Monday, David received 3 job offers. A private school wanted him as head of facilities with full tuition for Sophia. A nonprofit focused on adult education wanted him leading outreach. Rebecca called with her own offer. I want to create a new position. Director of Community Engagement. building partnerships between Meridian and communities we operate in. Schools, libraries, nonprofits, making sure we contribute, not just extract value. David was silent. I don't have a degree. You have something better. You understand what real people need because you've lived it. You know how to connect because you've spent years being invisible and seen how that feels. Rebecca paused. I need someone who'll tell me the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. The board approved the position when I explained why we needed it. Using your story. What happened with Omar? What's the salary? Rebecca told him. Triple his custodian pay. Health insurance, retirement matching, college fund for Sophia. David couldn't speak. Is that acceptable? I can negotiate higher. It's more than acceptable. When do I start? Whenever you're ready. Take a week. A month. But David? Yes? This isn't charity. This isn't publicity. I'm offering this because I genuinely believe you can do it better than anyone I could hire. You've already changed this company just by being yourself. I want to see what happens when we give you resources and authority. David looked around his tiny apartment. Books. Makeshift shelves. The kitchen table, where he'd spent 7 years helping his daughter with homework. I'm ready. I'll start Monday. 3 months later, David launched Books for Families, distributing free books to children in low-income housing across New York. Meridian funded it. Omar's foundation matched. Within 6 months, they'd given away 50,000 books. Within a year, 3 community learning centers with free tutoring, computer access, adult education classes. Sophia's life changed too, but not how people expected. She didn't become a celebrity or influencer. Fame faded as news stories captured attention. She went back to school, back to being a regular kid who happened to speak 4 languages and was teaching herself Mandarin. Twice monthly, she visited elementary schools to talk about reading and languages. She never gave speeches. Just sat with small groups, answering questions. Where do you get books? The library. It's free. How do you remember words? Practice a little every day. Are you a genius? No. I just like learning. Can anyone learn languages like you? Yes. You just have to start. Omar's idea. Sophia's gift isn't just intelligence, it's enthusiasm. When children see her, they see someone like them who did something extraordinary. That gives them permission to try. Omar visited monthly. He'd take Sophia to museums, cultural events, restaurants where they could speak Arabic and eat Middle Eastern food. He taught her classical poetry. She taught him idioms and explained memes until he understood why they were funny. Their relationship bewildered people. A billionaire and an 8-year-old meeting for tea like old friends. But those who watched closely saw what others missed. They'd each lost someone irreplaceable. They'd found in each other an echo of that loss, and a reminder connection was still possible. Rebecca's relationship with them evolved slowly. She wasn't comfortable with children. Didn't know how to talk to Sophia without sounding condescending. But she showed up. School plays, learning center openings, Sunday library trips where Sophia loaded up on books. David found poetry, and Rebecca, hesitantly, began checking out novels she'd never had time to read. One evening after ice cream and a walk through Prospect Park, Sophia asked, "Why don't you have kids?" Rebecca froze. David started to redirect, but Rebecca held up a hand. "Because I chose my career instead. For a long time I thought that was right. Now I'm not sure. You could still have kids. People do that when they're old. Not old, adult old." Rebecca laughed. "True. But I think I missed my chance at being the kind of parent I'd want to be. I spent too many years thinking success meant being tough and independent. I don't know if I could unlearn that." Sophia considered this. "My mom said people can always change if they want to. She said grown-ups forget that, but it's true. Your mom was wise. She was the best." Sophia looked up. "But you're pretty cool too, for a CEO." Rebecca's eyes stung. "That might be the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. A year after that Sunday, the four met at the harbor where David had scattered Maria's ashes. It had become tradition. 4 times yearly they'd meet at sunset with tea and food and talk, sometimes business. Omar wanted to expand the scholarship internationally. David had ideas for mentorship, pairing corporate employees with underserved kids. Rebecca shared sustainability reports and asked opinions on new initiatives. Mostly they talked about life. Small things. Sophia's Mandarin progress, Omar's new granddaughter, David's hesitant attempts at dating. Rebecca's decision to adopt a retired greyhound who destroyed 2 pairs of expensive shoes but taught her unconditional affection. The sun set over water, painting the sky amber and rose. Sophia sat between her father and Omar, legs dangling off the pier, notebook open. She was writing a children's book about a girl who collected languages like stamps. "Read what you have," Rebecca said. Sophia shook her head. "It's not done." "We don't mind," David said gently. "Nothing we do is ever really done," Omar added. "That's what makes it beautiful." Sophia looked at the 3 adults who'd become her family. This unlikely constellation who shouldn't have found each other but had. She cleared her throat and read, "My dad taught me. Love is a language too. It doesn't have grammar or vocabulary. You can't learn it from books. But if you pay attention, really listen, you can recognize it anywhere. It sounds like someone reading stories when they're too tired to keep their eyes open, like someone teaching you words in a language they don't speak just because you wanted to learn, like strangers who become friends who become family, all because someone was brave enough to say hello in a voice that could be heard." She paused, looking up. Angels sometimes forget their wings, but we recognize them anyway. Not by what they look like, but by how they make us feel. Like we matter, like we're seen, like we're home. Sophia smiled, that radiant smile that had stopped a billionaire and changed all their lives. "I see my family, people from different languages, different worlds, but we speak the same language now, the language of love." David pulled his daughter close. Rebecca wiped her eyes. Omar raised his mint tea. "To family," he said in Arabic. "To family," Sophia repeated. "In any language," David added. They sat together as the sun disappeared and stars emerged. 4 people who'd found each other across divides of class and culture and pain. Bound by a child's curiosity and a father's love, and the simple, revolutionary act of trying to understand. In the end, that was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything.